Okay, here is our, what I call the run file. So let me show you what we do here. The latest is found right there. That's my email. I'm Mark. That's my email. And that's the webinar folder. So whenever we have any documents, books, or whatever, I drop it in this folder. And then when I refer to that from the run, that is, if it is a document and if we need it, it's there. That's number one. Number two is that you can scroll down if you want and see what we've been talking about. And I add now everything to the top. So today is November 10th, and that's where we are. And what we're going to do is this. So let us start. So first of all, I'll describe essentially the end of my journey. The end of my journey into investigating what they call the D-Wave company. And, you know, I'll show you the end, since I'm talking about the end of the journey, I'll show you the end result. Okay, here's the end result. It's a press release that I issued, which says that one of my clients is going to use quantum computing for delivery. Now, between ourselves here, it's bogus because it will be a long way before clients will start using that, right? But my goal was exactly that, to show that it is possible. They are indeed my client, except that they don't want any kind of quantum computing or, in fact, technology to be used. They are truck drivers, and that's what they want to do. So they are not in the stars. But I absolutely love everything else that I did. The pictures and the stars, and well, the press release is real. The press release is not perfect, so it squishes all the ideas, but they are here, especially about quantum computing here. Quantum computing. Now that you've seen this, and that's just the way that I am, and cannot resist doing marketing. Okay, now that you see that, let's go to the beginning. First of all, there was an interesting correspondence between D-Wave and me. So let me show that first of all. Maybe I should tell you real quick what we're going to do today. So we'll look at the journey. We'll look at Z-Wave. What is it? How useful it is? That's another view of quantum computing. So that's why it comes in. And secondly, we will look at some more practical steps in learning about quantum computing. But of course, quantum computing, it is so vast that the biggest book and the best book has 1,000 pages. And what they say in praise of that book is that the material that has to be covered is so much more than that 1,000 pages. It's thousands upon thousands of pages. So not surprising that there are many views on it. And I'm always thinking of what new way of looking at it. Well, by the way, here it is. I once showed you guys. Here are all of the books, right? You see them. You don't have to make pictures of that because I've listed all of them. And there was once a moment when somebody asked, well, 1 second, bring you back on power. I have a list of books. So if anybody wants a list of books, it is there. And that's many ways. One way that I'm showing you now is Z-Wave way. Now that we see how that comes in, that is what they sent me. They sent me what they call the inspiration. Now, that is just a bunch of marketing, because whenever you talk about Z-Wave, the basic facts is that they are not a generic quantum computing company. They are, from the very beginning, a combination of regular computing and quantum computing and practical applications. Now, that sounds great, but people who want to stick it to them always say, but look at the stock price, guys. You are down, you are nothing. Okay, that's one way to see it, but they are definitely a force, and that is obviously some marketing person, because I got in touch, I wrote to them, and I said, yeah, they're very interesting. I looked at those demos. So number one, the demo. Demo is, sorry to say, marketing fluff, because they don't say anything that is real. It must be that they got some customers signed up on the contract, maybe for future work, but not anything real. Well, they shouldn't hear me. But I asked some guys, that's very interesting. Now, I really like the presentation, which I do. It's just that it doesn't have enough reality. And they said, oh yeah, sure, that's where you go. And I said, white papers. That's the white papers. That's where the white papers are. Well, let's go there. That's D-Wave, that's there. And by the way, the ebook, I got the ebook, and again, it's marketing fluff, and thousands upon thousands, well, really dozens of use cases. Okay, one that I was interested in specifically was logistics, because remember, I just showed you this press release about using quantum computing for delivery. And that is what I investigated. But then I found an interesting thing. When I asked, so what I want to do is show it to my customer. Yeah, and no reply. Now, of course, this Inessa Nikulina is, I got in touch in LinkedIn, and she's not part of the company. She is just a marketing agency. But she couldn't continue the conversation. In the end, I think I understand what it is. They want people to come to them for contracts. And if it turns out that they will even use quantum computing in their solution, great. But from the get-go, they said that it may be a regular computing, and optimization is a nice area. That's what they said. So I'm closing this and going back here. And what I've covered is these things about how we use it and how maybe you use it for marketing. But there is a bit more. A bit more is right here, LA port scheduling. That's the paper that they publish about Los Angeles, how big of a thing it is, how big that port is, and how they can use quantum computing, especially those nice pictures. You can increase your performance, who knows, 200%. All right, now that I showed you that, and now that I will show you the latest idea from them, take the leap challenge. Let's do this. Now, that here is a different email, and they are talking about go ahead and run it. Subscribe, get in, and try to run it. Well, I didn't yet. The trial that you will get essentially is a video, and it shows like it's computing, it's churning and figuring out, and then the results. That's how they are. All of these are. So I might show you something of that next time, but in reality, I don't think there's any great meaning in continuing that. Okay, I think I showed you enough of the practical application. And if you have a client that want some kind of things, you can continue that way. Unfortunately, my client felt that technology is not something they're interested in. But in theory, you can do something with them. The company was started in 2000, and they are even doing something in way of generic quantum computing. That's what I wanted to show you as the first part. As the second part, we'll talk about more practical, well, more down-to-earth quantum qubits. That's the next step. So right now, what I'm doing is stop sharing, okay, and allowing you to talk. Okay, now everybody can speak if they want to, and I'm giving you a minute. Questions, what you do, like you can tell us what you do in quantum computing, and to make it just a bit more fun, I will ask that question on the chat. What you guys do with quantum computing, or what is your interest in it? Just type away. Don't hesitate. Look, I'm so honest that I'm telling you all the story about my press release. So of course you can tell me what you do. All right, but if I don't get any answer, I will continue. Okay. All right. Let me share again. Quantum encryption. Okay, that's nice. Quantum encryption. By the way, we did touch on quantum encryption. I even showed you the device that's made in Japan that's using encryption as a safe channel of communication. And the idea, maybe I repeat myself, but the idea in quantum encryption is this. First of all, communication, and secondly, encryption. So communication works like this. Alice wants to talk to Bob, the famous example, but she's afraid of Eve, the eavesdropper. So what she does is she sends Bob qubits, and she watches whether Eve gets to listen to her conversation or no, using the quantum entanglement. So if Eve listens to the conversation in the quantum world, this is not going unnoticed. In our regular world, you could have a mole, a spy, and he could be listening and sending the information for years, and you will never know. But in the quantum world, once Eve touches, measures, observes, then the other bit, which qubit, which is connected to this one through entanglement, will react. And that's how basically it works. So the interesting fact about this is that this year is advertised as a pivotal year, a change over year, because in about 4 years, quantum computing will be strong enough to break encryption. Okay, 4 years, remember? But also it takes about 4 years to switch to quantum encryption. So that is the year when people should take it seriously. Now, of course, that is easy to say. Nobody is going to take anything seriously 4 years in advance, except for those people who are in the know and don't tell us. That is as far as not so much encryption, but communication channel. As far as encryption, we all know it is very challenging, interesting area, but even okay, even Cisco, for whom I taught, even they feel it's too way in the future, and for now they are not scheduling more of these courses. So maybe they can learn it themselves, and they don't have any rush. Okay. So interested in optimization, quantum machine learning, that's everything. And that's what we basically cover. That's nice. Thank you very much for telling me that. I'll share back. Here's my screen. And I will show you our run file. I will also put it again here on chat. Okay, so if you want to click on that, you will see exactly the same picture as I see this one. And what we were talking about first were all kinds of practical applications from the company called Z-Wave. But I shared my doubts about how practical they are and how real they are. And maybe it's a good marketing, but people who want to stick to them point out that that marketing didn't quite work, because in 20 years, you guys, your stock is a penny stock. That's what it is. Nevertheless, I showed you all that there is, and there is still something you can do to continue with this a leap challenge. Leap challenge is a bunch of use cases that you can actually run, except that you only do what they want to do for you. So you can investigate them, but I will not investigate that further for now. Instead, I want to go and show you, let's continue education. Let's continue learning. Learning is mostly done with Qiskit. Now, that's funny name, Qiskit, right? But here is the book. I'll first show the book, and then I will here, and then I will continue in a more general way. So that is a book. The book is called the Qiskit. What's the name of it? Qiskit Pocketbook, right? And I think it's good. It has a lot of good reviews on Amazon. That what you see here is Kindle, right? So I'm going through that, and I will show you one of the labs, and that's my plan. I continue to keep going through that, doing the labs, giving you the labs also, and that will give us some theoretical knowledge of quantum computing. Now, that's not the only way to learn quantum computing. I mean, Qiskit. Qiskit probably is the most popular library. That is a library from IBM. But in addition, the close competitors will be the Google. They have their own library. Microsoft, they have their own library. And finally, Intel. So let me briefly touch on the competitor libraries before we go back to Qiskit. First of all, Google, now that's not the usual style, bombastic advertisement, but with quantum computing, somehow they do it. Once in a while, they come up with, we have a breakthrough in quantum computing, and we do in 2 minutes something that takes IBM 1,000 years. And then IBM comes back and they begin arguing. That's Google. Their library is called, I don't remember, but you can find what it's called. You know, we should do this. We should say Google computing library or language. Okay, and my Microsoft is just coming in, but Google Quantum Computing libraries here, and Quantum AI. Wow, that's crazy. Everything together. The library is Circ, it seems. Okay, that's Google. That's Microsoft with their own language. And I mentioned Intel. Intel approach is, in a way, reminds you of D-Wave, because it's a combination of regular computing, classical computer, and quantum. And again, they all invite you. You can become a member of their network and run something. But once you go beyond the surface, once you go further, you click on the link and go there. Nothing is easy at all. Now that becomes pretty hard. Okay, that's a quick overview of other approaches. But now let's go back. And right here, I promised this library. So I showed you that there are other ways to learn about quantum computing, but I will pursue this one in our webinars. One of the reasons is because they are the only ones that offers you a certification. So it would be nice to get a certificate we could all boast. And I even had an offer. You guys pass the test and I will pay for that test. I want to make it interesting. So I'll refund you money, and it's, I think, $150. That's a good offer. Now I see on chat. Okay, thank you for Google Libraries called Circ. Yes, it is. Thank you. Now let's go to this. I showed you the book, but I need to show a bit more of that book first. Almost here. So very popular on Amazon by one of the guys who work for IBM itself, and it's very, very practical. So let us show how it's done. Fundamentals of Quick-Qiskit. As you see, no theory. I'll add my own theory, but practically that's the operations on quantum computing without any explanation. Just drop into code. All right, so going through that, I decided to collect those exercises, put them into a notebook, and actually run them. That is what my approach is. Note, please, that it's a pocketbook, meaning that it doesn't go in a slow explanatory way. No, it immediately shows you all gates. So it doesn't explain what those gates are. And that you're expected to know. It's not a theory. And then it even gives you a big list of those gates. So if you are unfamiliar, then I'll tell you right away what it is, but he doesn't tell you. So what are those gates? We're talking about quantum computing, and we're saying that our qubits, our bits in the quantum computing world, these are qubits, will be represented physically by photons or electrons, and as such, they will be in a shape and form of a wave. We all remember that particles are also waves. How can it be? It's not clear. That's philosophy, but that's later on. But let's accept it. So those particles are waves. As such, they have probabilities of being this or that. And quantum computing is a way to influence those probabilities. How do you influence a probability? Technically, you apply a transform to that. So let's say the probability of 1 was 1, and you apply a not transform, and the probability of 1 becomes 0, but the probability of 0 becomes 1. But there are more interesting transforms than this. They are all listed here. And I couldn't stay on the level of just blah, blah. I had to mention that there are matrices. Because in mathematics, the way to represent a transform is by matrix. And there is no way to avoid the fact that you take a vector, which represents your qubit, and you multiply it by a matrix, and that is the transform. Now, if we have this out of the way, that is a circuit. So that circuit is very hard to explain because he says it is nonsensical circuit, but that's what they look like. It is your first qubit and you apply a transform. So you would have to look it up, and it is Hadamard, however you pronounce Hadamard, right, H gate. Then that puts your qubit into a new state. Then you have more states, more states, more states, and in the end you measure it. Okay, that's as much of a theory as I wanted to show you, because right now I want to show you the actual implementation. Let's go there. Right here, and let's click on that link. That is linked to the open lab. Right here is the lab. You see that it is hosted on the Elephant Scale. That's the training. And it is called Quantum Computing Labs, and it's open. So if you want to run any of these labs, you have one of two possible ways. Way number one, you just look at it. Let's look quantum circuits. Let's look at it. GitHub is nice, and it will show you the complete picture. So rather than looking at this picture, which should come with even graphs, okay, I will show you how you can run it, because here you cannot run it, right? It's just an image. Well, how you can run it is one of two ways. Either you download this lab, set up an environment like I did. You download the lab. I downloaded it to this directory. Then you create a Notepad, Jupyter Notepad environment, which I called Qiskit. Maybe I'll do it. Let's close that and see where I am. I am in a Python-enabled environment. It's called Qiskit. I did this. I said conda activate Qiskit. And it did it for me. It won't change anything because I was already in Qiskit. By the way, if you want to list all of your conda environments, then I think it's like this list, if I'm not mistaken. No, maybe one minus list, maybe just list. And if that doesn't work, I'll drop it. I won't show you all environments, but I have multiple environments. One is for AI, another one is for another AI, you see. So that's all of them, but depending upon which project that you are working on, you switch on a certain one, and right now it's Qiskit. Once it is this, you say Jupyter Lab, okay? And that starts your real environment in a graphical form, okay? There you are. So I'm closing other tabs that are not needed. Here I am in the Pocketbook. Now, what do I have there all together other than the Pocketbook? I have multiple labs that come from IBM, and some of them I copy pasted, some of them I completely downloaded. You can do that, even that. The Pocketbook environment, I had to actually spell out and run because he doesn't give any examples like that. But that's the way to learn, is by doing this. So if you want to run it this way, you can then, let me close all other tabs. And then you want to open the very first example. And people who saw that, they already saw that. But I'll show you where we start from, and we'll do more the next time. So it's kind of going back to where we were. I haven't been here for a while, so it's worth refreshing. So that shows you how to construct quantum circuits. So if you are fresh and new to this, you know that first you construct your computer. You constructed out of circuit, quantum circuit, and you give it certain number of qubits. So it's a giant leap back because you're back to the level where you have a logical view of bits, and we're past that with AI. But practically, you do this. Let's try that. You can run it by either clicking on this run, and the instructions, they just come through, but that you are really doing. You see, I created the quantum circuit. To make it more realistic, I will click on kernel and I will say restart kernel and clear all output so that there is no output and I'm really running. The other way to run this cell is by holding the shift and hitting the return key, and that's what I just did. So I imported the Qiskit library. The reason it worked is because my environment, my Conde environment, already has that installed. Otherwise, you would have to do it. Okay, now before I go with the next steps, like this, before I do this, I'll tell you that you don't have to go to all the complexities that I went. I just feel it much better to have it local and it always runs. But instead, you can simply go to Google environment. You can go into Colab. Let me do this. Probably will work from any browser. Go to search. Welcome to Colab. And you are in. Now, what you do is take any lab here and import, upload it. So you go back to the GitHub, and on GitHub, you take any of these labs. Let's take any of these and download that like this. I just downloaded. So if I downloaded that and it is in my download folder, then I can go to Google Colab, and here I can upload it. Here you are, upload the notebook, and we are looking at my drive. So lo and behold, it's exactly the same lab, but now I'm uploading it to Google, and it will show it to me in a second. There you are. So here it is, and I can start running it. Let's do that. Shift, return, 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 and boom, that should crash. Because I'm not in the environment where that is installed, right? So what I can do is install it right here. That's what you will have to do every time you're in a Google environment. You do exclamation sign, pip, install Qiskit. Oh, it's smart. Knows. Running it again. It installs. You feel nervous. What if it doesn't install properly? That's why I like the local environment best. But it installed properly and I can do the next step. All right, I showed you all the ways how you can proceed with practical something. And now we can go back and actually proceed, except that I will still do it in the local environment. Right here. And I want to be in the right. And the right browser right here. It's localhost I'm running in my local environment, and I now can go to the next steps. So what we do is, let's look at that. We have created the first quantum computer for ourselves. It only has 2 bits, 2 qubits. So let us look at the type of this. The type of it is quantum circuit. So we have created a little quantum circuit of 2 bits, and now we're trying to do 2 and 2. That means that there will be 2 qubits and 2 regular bits. And I will be able to measure whatever the qubits did for me, measure and copy it to regular bits. Let's try. Here it is, another quantum circuit, probably of the same type, except that now it can measure. We remember when you measure, you destroy. Any observer, and measuring is observation, any observer stops the magic. So here it is. I want to do something with, for example, I want to draw it. Now, you maybe saw that pictures looked better than they look now. Well, that's because the change of the environment. Okay, but they still are understandable, and they are pictures. Very nice. So I created a quantum circuit, this time with 3 qubits, and I applied transforms. The very first qubit I transformed with Hadamard transform. The second one I said control not. 0, 1, 0 is the target and 1 is the control bit. And then I also did an operation on the second qubit. So the picture is like this. I took the qubit number 1, did the Hadamard transform. Qubit number, that was 0, that was 1. I did the negation, and then again, I did the negation to the next one. So in this, I also copied what they do. And right now, I just wanted to show you what they do. It's later on when I will start in earnest, and later on means next week, when I will start preparing myself and you guys for a complete mastery of the quantum circuits control and of Qiskit language, because we're using the Qiskit language. So here we are. We want to illustrate a barrier. A barrier is just a nice graphical element, nothing very special about this. You see, so when I put a barrier here, then it draws a complete line. Other than being a graphical element, it also says you can or cannot combine different operations. For example, they want to simplify things for the quantum computer, and some of the multiple gate operations are known. And for example, negation and another negation will gives you unity. You take a 0, deny it, it's 1, deny it, it's again 0. But if you put a barrier, it's not allowed to combine. Now, I don't think that's a very important thing, but that's the order of progress in the pocketbook. So I follow the pocketbook. Then you can also measure. Here I am measuring. That is the measure. M, that's measure, and it's reflected in coding by the word measure. And I measured and I got bit 0, bit 1, and bit 2 with the result. What result? I don't say. That is just a description of what I'm going to do. That is me doing this. In other words, let's go ahead, measure and draw. That's the result. Now, there is a bonus on this. I want to show you something else, and I want your reaction. I'll tell you what my biggest problem with going this way. That's a nice picture. That's a way to visualize what's going on. So when you're doing this quantum computation, you're dealing with noise. And often this noise results in the computing not being perfect. Therefore, the real program runs 1,000 times before it comes up with the result. Let's see. By default, I think it's 1,024. You can change that. I here say shots, 1,000 shots. If it is 1,000 shots, it means that I take that quantum circuit, I execute it 1,000 times, and I show how many times did I get a 0, how many times did I get a 1. Let's run again. Please notice 519 and 481 on the previous run. And now, same. Let's try again. Okay, new numbers. Let's try again. Again, new numbers. And once more. So you really see it's random and more or less 50-50. That's what it should be. If you analyze the circuit, that's what it should be. And that is how many times you got this result. First qubit 0, second 0, and how many times you got that result. First qubit 1 and second qubit 1. So I had a question, how you're going to do this? Because I'm going to put lab number 4 and then lab number 5 and so on. But for that, you need to remember what lab number 1 did, what lab number 2 did, and you can't expect that from us. We're meeting every week, we forget, and we're not the same people next time we meet, and maybe really not the same people who come. But I just had an answer, and the answer is that every lab I will explain as if we're starting from scratch. You know, Richard Feynman, the physicist, he said that if we cannot explain something to a 6-year-old, I think he said 5, then we don't understand it. So that's a test of our understanding. If we can take every new lab, start from the first line of this lab, explain what's going on, even though you don't know what was going on in the first one. This gave rise to a new term. The new term is LE5, like this, LE5, right? And the meaning of it, explain like I am 5, right? And there are variations on that, but that is what I'm going to do. LE5. Now there is a Python library of LE5 that's doing explanation of machine learning. I think it's not being used for a while, but I think it makes sense. I think that I will convert these labs, these ones, to LE5 to explain every lab, explain what you're doing, and explain easily for a 5-year-old. I don't have any 5-year-old running around right now, but theoretically, I can get hold of my granddaughter and she's 5. So let's see if that works. Right now, volunteer your kids. Right now, we're right here. That's what I want you to do. I will stop sharing. And I will give you a chance to ask questions. That's number 1, ask questions. And number 2, express desires. Okay. Meanwhile, while you're thinking and collecting your thoughts on that, I will put it on the next session. You don't see that, but that's okay. I'm just writing down that our next session, which happens on the 17th, we'll have whatever news will happen by then. But on the practical level, it will be Qiskit, Pocketbook, LE5. As LE5. Okay, that's what we will do next time. Guys, that is it, right? So please express your desires or send me an email. Send me an email talking about what you would want. Maybe another good idea will be to have an overview of potential practical applications. This time I showed you D-Wave, and maybe there are other ways. So let's talk about potential. Now, practical applications in quantum computing, that depends upon who you ask, what are the practical applications. So that's very open. All right. Thank you for coming. I wish you a great week, and we'll talk next week. Thank you.